I got into writing in a weird way. When I was in the 7th grade, I decided I want to be a criminal defense lawyer when I grew up, and that's the only thing I ever really wanted to do. And that I had a very exciting career as a criminal defense lawyer for 25 years and argued in the U.S. Supreme Court, and did about 30 homicide cases, including a lot of death penalty cases. I'm a voracious reader. I read several books a week, and I just never in a million years thought I'd ever be able to, sell anything or write a book, because I was in awe of writers. And my last semester in law school, I had some free time, and I just couldn't figure out how anyone could write 400 pages of words. So just during the summer, I decided to try to write a novel just to see how you do it. And I liked it. I didn't write a very good book. The book was really bad, but it was fun, and I wrote another even worse book. But it got to be sort of a hobby for me, and then in my 30s I sold a short story and got some self-confidence that I could maybe write publishable fiction. And then my first effort after that was sold, and it got published in Hearthstone in 1978, and in 1981 I wrote another novel, The Last Innocent Man, and then I stopped for about 12 years.
Why did you stop?
Well, I'd always wanted to be a criminal defense lawyer, and the same year that Hearthstone, my first novel, came out, I argued in the U.S. Supreme Court, and in between the first book and the second book, I became the first Oregon attorney to use the battered women syndrome in a murder case involving an abused wife who'd killed an abuser. I was the lead attorney or the attorney for one of the lead defendants in the biggest federal drug conspiracy case in Oregon history. I started doing big murder cases, so I was doing all of a sudden everything I really wanted to do, and the writing was just a hobby, so I put it on the back burner and concentrated on my law career.
How did you teach yourself to write?
I didn't really teach myself. I just started writing. I would sit down and I would write stuff. I'd get an idea, and I got a little bit more organized, I guess. As I went on, I started doing outlines of the books instead of just writing, without any knowing where I was going. And then after I published the first book, it was, it was published in a weird way, and it took me a while to actually finish it. But during the editing process, I just was learning on the job how to do this stuff, and then the third book, which came out, that was an international bestseller. It was on the Times list for about 10 weeks and got up to number 3, and I had a really good editor who fortunately was able to make some sense out of the mess I gave him initially. And then he helped me with my next book, and I would just listen to what the editors were saying and figure out where I was screwing up and try to fix it so I didn't screw up the next book. And so now I sort of feel I know what I'm doing. I've got to just finish my 13th novel, and I'm feeling more comfortable, but I still have problems, and fortunately I've had some really good editors to show me where I'm messing up.
What stumps you the most?
Getting an idea. I mean, the writing's pretty easy for me. Once I get an outline done and the ending, the writing part is not a big problem at all. But it's my books are really, the plots are real complex, and you have to really think them out. They're not just real simple stuff. So I have to make sure everything hangs together. Usually requires a lot of research. Proof positive, my last one had to do with a forensic guy who's a criminologist, like these CSI guys, who's intentionally falsifying evidence. Well, I had to learn how to do that, and how the Oregon State Crime Lab works, and always having to learn stuff, which is the fun of the writing, because it's like going back to school and getting an education in stuff that I didn't know. So now I can make it look like your fingerprints are in a motel in Nebraska while you're actually interviewing me here and frame you for a murder. But that's sort of fun to find out. And,
Yeah, that is
fun. Doing the research is pretty neat.
Well, now, what, do you have some quirks how do you keep yourself motivated?
Oh, I love writing. It's just like fun. I can't believe anyone's really paying me to do it. It's I get in every morning. I can't wait to get up, and then I go to my office. I kept my law office. I retired in '96 to write full time, but I'd actually done 25 years as a lawyer and loved it. I always emphasize that. So I keep my office, and I get in at 7:30 every day, and I get myself a grande non-fat caramel latte and do the New York Times puzzle and check my email, and then I get to work, and I love working, and I just can't wait every day to do it. And I usually am good for about 4 hours. I get tired from thinking, and I run down around, I don't know, 11 o'clock or so, and then I work out for about an hour or so, and then I usually am not too productive in the afternoon. I get most of my work done in the morning, but if you put a good 4 hours, solid 4 hours every day, you get a lot of stuff done.
And what do you do when you're not writing?
I'm the president and chair of the board of the Chess for Success program, which is a really phenomenal educational nonprofit that uses chess to trick elementary and middle school kids in Title I schools into learning study skills. And we are presently in 70 schools. We just moved into our first schools. I'm in in Oregon. We're in every Title I elementary, middle school in the Portland Public School District. We're now in 10 other districts in the state. We just moved into the state of Washington, and we're formulating a statewide and national replication plan. The U.S. Congress paid for a study of the program, and we had just amazing results with and the most amazing thing is it only costs $75 per kid per year, and yet we 93% of our children in the program, we have almost 3,000 now, and we increase about 500 per year. 93% met or exceeded the math standards in the state, and 91% met or exceeded the reading standards. So it really works. It's very inexpensive. It's just the smartest educational program.
You're really teaching kids to think.
Yeah, well, we're using chess to trick them into learning how to sit still and shut up. We have a very, very tiny goal. We just want them to sit still, shut up, and look at the problem that they're working with, and it really has amazing. Parents are always shocked because we'll have these practice tournaments with about 250 elementary school kids, and you know what nuts they are, and they're screaming and hollering, and then as soon as the pairings for their games come up, they sit perfectly quiet without making a sound for an hour, and nobody can figure out what I think we're putting drugs in their Coke or something. But it's a fabulous program. Then I work out and I do other stuff. So
Well, now, of the books that you've written, which one's your favorite?
Gone but Not Forgotten.
And why?
Oh, a number of reasons. First, it was my big breakthrough book. It was the first one to land on the New York Times list and sold well over 1 million copies, and it was book, I think, main selection literary guild, and it was sold to over 27 foreign publishers, and it's been a movie, blah blah blah. So, and then it scares the hell out of people, which I really enjoy. It freaks people out, so that's always fun. And then my wife's the model for the heroine, and that was I always get a kick out of that because I have never modeled any of my other characters on any real person, but I had never used a woman as a main character before, and I was scared to death. I started out with a man as the main character and then realized I had to have a woman for that particular book, and I was scared to death because I didn't know how I'd do it. And I said, well, who's the toughest guy I know? And I said, oh, it's my wife Doreen. So I just sort of imagined her in every scene where the heroine Betsy Tannenbaum is, and so when I read the book, I see her, and so I sort of like that aspect of it.
That's great. Well, now, what advice do you have to new writers who are struggling to break into this business?
First of all, I always tell people to treat writing as a hobby. Don't take it real seriously. The truth of the matter, I've been really lucky. I got published by a fluke, but it's really hard to get published. And if you do get published, it's really hard to make enough money to feed yourself. So if you're writing to get published or writing for money, you're probably going to be a sad person. On the other hand, writing is fabulous fun. And, you can't be a writer and do brain surgery or try death penalty murder cases as a hobby, but you can be a lawyer, a doctor, a TV repairman, a bus driver, and write as a hobby. And so I advise people to really do it just for fun. Try to do the best job you can. If you get lucky and someone wants to publish your book, then you can make a decision at that time, how much you want to devote to the writing. But you should do it because you love it. The other thing is to persist. And I had never met a published writer before I got published. I mean, I'm the first published writer I ever met. And now I've met a lot of published writers over the years, very famous ones, not so famous ones. The big difference between the two is that the unpublished writers are always talking about this book they're going to write. Published writers sit on their butt and write. And they just keep on writing, and they deal with rejection. If you don't like rejection, don't become a writer, because it's hard, and you're always going to get these letters saying that you're really a hideous writer and your book's real stupid. And you've got to say, okay, that's that person's personal opinion. They're entitled to it. But I really like this stuff, and I'm going to keep doing it. And so persistence. Don't talk about the book you're going to write. Just sit and actually do the writing. And that's the best advice I can give you. Yeah.
What's the title of your latest book?
The one that was published or one that's going to be published?
One was published?
Is Proof Positive.
All right. And you have an upcoming book?
Yeah, I just finished the draft, and I will, on Monday, this is Friday, but Monday I'm going to start working on the edit. My editor sent me a really nice letter explaining all the stuff that she sees as problems with it, which I really like. I love editors, and I like being beat up by them. So
what's the pub date?
I think it's June of 2008. It's called Executive Privilege, and they've got a really cool cover for it. I've seen the cover already, but
excellent!
And it should be a lot of fun. The bottom line question in the book is the President of the United States a serial killer?
Oh,
and it's fun.
Okay, Phil. Well, Philip Margolin, thanks so much for being with us today.
Oh, thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it.